Hello and welcome to A Life of Creation. My name is Chad and I'm the host of this channel. If you like what you've seen so far, please subscribe, hit that like button, hit the notification button so that you know when I release new videos. Today we are talking to Sef Idle, who is a talented singer-songwriter. He owns Simple Records, Simple Studios, and is a big part of the Boise, Idaho independent music scene. Tonight he is answering the 10 questions. So let's get into it. Just use an overlay. You want to jump into the 10 questions then?
10 questions. Let's do it.
All right, I'm here with Sef Idle from Simple Records, Simple Studios, and several bands. Singer-songwriter, king of Boise, Idaho. He's going to answer the 10 questions. All right, so question 1. What does it mean to you to live a life of creation?
Mean to me to live a life of creation. I should have studied for these. I should have. I did read them, but I didn't study. I didn't think of my answers. To live a life of creation. I don't know. I think it's probably different for everybody. For me, it's having an outlet for myself. Like I don't really create for anybody but myself. Whatever's going on in here, just gotta. Oh, it's like that's how I kind of release it to the world or get it out of my system. Music kind of is the main thing. So the life of creation. Yeah, just expressing yourself in whatever way suits you.
Yeah. Yeah, I've talked to a few guys already, and I think for men, a life of creation is the best way for them to have mental health.
Agreed. Yeah.
Because, it's hard for guys to express emotions or feelings or what have you.
Right, right.
But we can write a darn good song about it, you know?
We can at
And
least write a song about it. May
right.
not be darn good, but we can write a song.
Well, some guys can.
Some guys definitely can, yeah.
I think we are created to create. And I think because of creation, it gives us a way just to balance ourselves.
Yeah, totally agree.
I've talked to some people too about, how guys need to sit down. We don't just sit down and talk. We need, a whiskey or a cigar or a beer or something. But it's like once you sit down with those things, most guys will kind of start opening up,
True.
but they wouldn't do it with, if they didn't have something, a cup of coffee even. But
True.
I think men especially need something to give them a reason to, let things out. And I think creation is a big way for us to do that.
Yep.
I had an idea and I can't remember it. The problem with sitting down with a whiskey and start talking. We can move on to number 2.
Number 2.
All right. Question 2. I believe that everyone is made to create. I think it's one of our purposes as human beings. I think there's like the glamorous side of creation, which is like artists, musicians, creative people. But I think there's also value in, you know, maybe consider the workman's approach or, something that may not be considered creative, right?
Hmm.
So I think they are creating value in what they do as well. So what areas do you see the value in creation, but are often underrated or not acknowledged as creation?
Mm.
I mean, I could even probably. say your full-time job,
Right.
people may not see that as a creative field, but
Sure.
you guys are you are creating value to society by what you do.
Yeah. Well, even the creativity within my, group of coworkers, like just being in that office space and just hearing all the different conversations going on. Like these are some of the most creative people I've ever known. They're geniuses. They're smart. They figure out how to take technology to the next level where people didn't think it could go. It's like there's so much creativity in that. And I think it's everywhere. I think everywhere. Everyone's creative in their own way.
Right,
Just yeah, you're not a rock star, so what? You're creative.
right. And I think that's was kind of the heart of me pursuing this channel was, I'm in the world of, the creative
Hmm.
arts, I'm a photographer,
Sure.
but I look at my wife who stays home with our boys and
Hmm.
creates a safe home for our family or creates meals for us and, does that
Yeah.
stuff. I'm like, and does it every day. And, you know, I'm like, she's creative. She
Well,
may
even the
not,
creative way parents have to like keep their children entertained and
oh God,
focused. Like you have to be so creative to do stuff like that. Like
oh
doing
my
that
gosh.
all day long, that's amazing.
Yeah. And, my wife was a preschool teacher before we
Oh
had our
wow.
second kid. So I can't even imagine, entertaining, you know,
Right.
multiple kids.
Right. Right. Keep all their attention.
And
Wow.
another thing I think of is like I had some questions about Excel one time and was told at work to I should talk to this one guy. I actually really want to get him on here at some point, but like he could just spout off like crazy formulas in
Hmm.
Excel to the point where I'm like, dude, you need to slow down. I you're going way over my head right now.
Uh-huh.
And it's just like his brain is just so wired to understand
Hmm.
those things. And I think about it and go, so many people go, I wish the world was full of artists, just creative people because
Right.
they have feeling and, they can express themselves and they're usually peaceful and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I don't want that. I want, people who, have understand logic and,
Hmm.
science and, applied mathematics,
Sure.
things, engineering, it's
Yeah.
like, I think the beauty of humans is, everyone has this unique quality to them that if they pursue, the things that they are prone to be good at, they're going to end up contributing to a society that will actually function better
Yeah.
than if
Totally.
everyone just pursued being creative.
Right.
A friend and I joked about, could you imagine if just a bunch of artists were the ones who created the roadways? You're like,
Oh
we
man,
would be all over the place,
it'd
right?
be a mess.
Right.
It'd be beautiful.
It would
It'd
be
be a mess.
beautiful, exactly, and that's the thing. It would be
But ineffective.
right. So it's like
Yeah.
you need all of these different minds
Yeah.
to create, a well functioning society.
Yep.
Question three. Do you believe you need to be passionate about what you create?
No. I read that one. I did think about that one a little bit because there's so many times where, say, I start writing a song, and there are a few times when I have like been passionate going into it, but more often than not, I'm just doing it to kind of like tinker, like, let's try and make something work. And I think sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And as the creation's happening, like the further you get into it, I find myself being more passionate about it or just not. I still will finish it out, and there's nothing wrong with that. It still could be great to someone else, but I don't think passion is a necessity in creation.
I actually said that as well when I answered these questions
Hmm,
because I shoot t-shirts, all day sometimes, and I'm like
sure.
I'm not passionate about that.
Hmm.
But I talked to someone and they said, well, you may not be passionate about that particular thing, but you are passionate about what you do overall. And I think for you, you are
Hmm,
passionate about music.
sure.
Of course, you may not be passionate about, everything all the time related to
Right.
music, but overall,
Sure.
you have passion. I was like, well, I get what you're saying, but I still think ultimately you don't necessarily have to have passion
No.
for what you're creating. At least at that moment.
I think
There's
passion keeps you going.
Yeah,
Like I think it's the passion that gives it its longevity. Because if you did it for 10 years and weren't feeling it, like you wouldn't keep going.
right.
So
Right.
yeah, I guess if you look at the whole picture, I guess to keep going in one direction, you'd have
Right.
to have some passion in it.
Right. The more I talk to people, I think most creatives, especially on the creative side, it's we have a passion for the journey.
Yes, for
So
sure.
it's the outcomes, you're like whatever, but I just enjoy the journey, and that's
Right.
why we keep doing these things.
Yep.
That's why we keep doing these things.
Why do we keep doing
Why
it?
do we keep doing it? Oh, yeah. Question 4. I don't think your creation has to be good to grow from it. What are some things you create that you might not consider it good, but something you still gain value from? And then, do you have any words of encouragement for those who get discouraged when their creations fall short of their expectations?
Hmm. Words of encouragement. Get used to it. Um, I honestly, probably a good, better majority don't meet my expectations, but I think I definitely learn more in those than I do the ones that succeed. You learn what you don't like, you learn what doesn't work, and then you take that and you take it to the next level. And the next time you succeed. Whereas if you start a project and it's easy peasy and goes great from start to finish, you don't learn any. I'm generalizing,
Right,
but I don't think I learn as much in those cases as I do in the ones that don't meet my expectations. Because I can go back and say, yeah, no, I know what I could have done there, and I'll do that next time.
right.
So yeah, just keep on trucking. Like that's the process. So not everything's going to be awesome, but
Yeah, I know that.
yeah,
The important thing is to learn from those times that it wasn't awesome.
yeah. You have to make that a mindset.
Right,
Like you can just get grumpy and pissed off about it. Yeah, like in order to get better at what you are passionate about, learn from those mistakes.
right.
Have to.
And, failure is part of the journey. Every
Yep.
Question 5. Not all creators would consider themselves artistic. Do you believe you have to be artistic to live a life of creation?
Creativity is like creativity and art do mesh. They are like kind of similar, but I don't think they have to be for them to exist. I've
Right.
I've known artists that weren't very creative,
Sure.
you know. So yeah, no, I don't think it needs to be.
Question 6.
Six.
Is there an experience or a time in your life where you realized that you were a creator?
I remember when I was a kid, I remember mowing the lawn. And when I would mow the lawn, I would make up songs in my head, melodies, words. They were terrible, but I remember in that moment thinking like, man, I can write songs. I'm awesome. But ever since then, no, I don't know.
I
What was the
mean,
question again?
well, I mean, I think you answered it.
Okay.
Is there an experience or a time in your life where you realize you're a creator? And I think that,
Hmm.
as a kid, you're like, I can write a song.
Yeah, I can sing, I can write a song, make up words or put words
Yeah.
to them. Yeah.
But then there could be the time too where you're like you do your first band
Hmm.
and you like write a song, record it, and you're like, wow, I did that.
I mean, I think those moments never stop. Like
Right.
your first show, like even if it's to four people, it's like that was awesome.
Right.
And then you play to a big crowd someday and they play this huge show and people are stoked and like, well, it was awesome. Like put out a record and you listen to it, like, man, that was really good. Like I
Yeah.
think that keeps the motivation going is having those moments as you go through
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. As you grow older, there's moments where you do different things. Like you started a record label
Hmm.
or a recording studio, and it's like you're not just writing songs now, you're recording bands, you're putting out records.
Yeah,
Those are other moments that, reignite the fire and the
absolutely.
passion, and just
Yeah,
like you found a new outlet for something that you already
yeah,
love. I'm trying to recognize those things more and more for myself
sure.
too. We are on this journey for our entire lives. Doesn't mean you can only do one thing,
Right.
kind of.
Yeah, it's definitely evolved for me and in ways that I never thought it would, which is cool.
Yeah. And I think that's what keeps our fires burning. Question 7. Was there a family member or friend encouraging you to pursue your passion for your creation?
I'd say that goes back again to being a kid. Like my parents knew I used to draw a lot. I started kind of even before I got into skateboarding, I used to draw a lot. And my parents were very encouraging and signed me up for this one, like this was pre-internet. So they had to like call this place and some guy came to my house and they bought me this whole program and like so I'd say it started there. And my mom's always been very encouraging, kind of kept me going for sure.
Was she encouraging when you're like, "Hey, I'm starting a punk band"?
No, she hated that.
Yeah,
She What's very cool is so I grew up in a very, use the word legalistic, Baptist, very strict.
right,
So rock and roll was evil. So when I started getting into the rock music and kind of jamming with my friends, she wasn't stoked. She was very sad about that. And then what's cool is it was right around the time False Idol put out its Hymns of Punk Rock Praise thing on Thumper Punk Records. Like she had already kind of figured out, okay, this isn't evil. It's cool.
right,
But when she heard us put the old hymns to punk music, like even though it's punk rock, she doesn't like punk rock. I wouldn't say she hated the music, but it wasn't her thing.
right,
But it kind of opened her eyes and like helped her through that. Like, oh, like people can express the same things that I sang about 50 years ago in just a way that people today will understand or
right,
where they can like really be passionate about it. Like she
right,
kind of realized, yeah, he's not going to sing hymns and get stoked and jump around on stage about it.
right.
But put it to a punk beat and throw some guitars on it. And so she did not like punk, but she's learned to very much appreciate it and what I used it for.
My parents weren't very excited about it either.
Yeah.
I think every generation has their voice, either their rebellion or, what they're passionate about. And, for us, that was punk rock. That was just the voice we found.
Yep. It's the
And we
one
were,
that hit us.
oh, it still hits so good.
Yeah.
it's cool that your mom kind of came around. I think
Yeah,
my
that's
mom
awesome.
eventually did too, and my dad made me take a 10-foot pole CD back to Best Buy because I think they said damn or something.
Right, right.
I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, and like the clerk was just like, we don't take CDs back once they're open. He's like, you should not be selling this to my kid. I'm just
I
like, I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, I'm glad they didn't find my minor threat or 7 seconds.
was gonna
See,
say, of all the bands, 10 Foot Pole is probably the most
I
mellow.
know, I
That's
know. It
funny.
was made the mistake of sharing it with my parents,
I had to learn you.
but I think our generation, especially, being in those homes that were a little more legalistic and everything but this is evil.
Hmm.
We were actually pretty blessed with a really good Christian hardcore punk metal scene at that
It
time.
was a great scene. It really
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
And like most of those things still sound good to me.
Hmm. Yep, they're still on my playlist.
Yeah. And it's like people go, oh man, you missed out on so much. I'm like, not really. I mean, I did miss out on some things because my
Hmm.
parents wouldn't let me do it. But I'm like,
No, totally.
we had such a good, healthy, incredible pool of music to pull from.
Yep.
And it makes me sad that I'm like, I don't see it as much. Back then it was like everyone played together. It didn't matter about, what you believed in. Now it's
Hmm.
like, oh, you believe that? You're like banned, or blackballed or it seems like such a weird scene now. I don't know if you see it at all, but
Yeah. I mean, some of it. I know
yeah.
what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, like it kind of got weird.
It did get a little weird.
I hope that, eventually gets back to just everyone plays good music
Yep.
like we had. Now I want to go back and listen to all those bands. I have a playlist on Spotify. I think I call it just like the beginning, and it's all like Unashamed, Focus, Strong Arm, like all the bands that I like started listening to back in the day, like the Crucified and um
Mm-hmm.
just my introduction to the punk world,
Right.
was through those guys, and it's like they were like those bands especially were even super respected within the hardcore communities,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the impact that they had just musically. I had a 15-year-old kid hit me up on Instagram to buy my Unashamed shirt that I
Wow.
have. I'm just like, wait, how do you know about Unashamed? But it's like they were considered a really good band
Hmm.
by just everyone's standards in the 90s,
Sure. Yeah.
Makes me feel glad to have grown up in that era. It was good times.
Yes, it was.
Question 8. Not everyone gets paid to create something they're passionate about. Where do you see the value in people pursuing their passions?
Mental, like you alluded to before, mental health for sure.
Yeah.
Is that for me? Like, yeah, if I didn't have that outlet, I'd go insane. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I feel like it's such a broad thing. Like there's so many different things that are valuable in it. Music, painting, graphic design, photography, videography, even social media these days, right? Like
Right.
I guess a lot of them are trying to get rich and famous too, but there's so many creative people out there who aren't, but they're just doing that's their art. That's their
Right.
generation of what art is.
Right.
I think there's value in that because it's inspirational. I'm just seeing new ways of thinking, new ways of doing things.
Right.
I just think there's value in everything people creates.
Yeah, you kind of brought up something interesting though, is like, we grew up creating a certain way, and now we're
Hmm.
watching, as your father as well, like our kids starting to create in their ways.
Hmm.
We're seeing the generational change or differences kind of play out in real time. And it's like you kind of get to see firsthand of like, everyone has their way of creating.
Right.
We're watching these kids with just incredible technology at their fingertips
Hmm.
that, you know, us at their age, we didn't even know what the internet was because there wasn't an internet.
Right.
And
Right.
it's like to see how they take these tools and then create with them.
Right.
As a grumpy old man myself, sometimes I have a really hard time with the things they create with it.
Sure, of course. Of course.
Or, just slightly bitter that they have it so easy to create
Yeah.
these things. But it's also cool to kind of see, and it is inspirational to us
Yeah.
to see the new art and new
Yeah.
music and
Right.
a new view on life at that age.
Yeah.
Because I think, us being in the punk world, we were kind of at that. We were really plugged into like the youth rebellion,
Hmm.
the youthful, scene. Where I don't think if you were plugged into a music scene, you're living the high school drama movie or something, where it's just like
Sure.
football games and parties and stuff.
Hmm.
Where
Yeah.
I think the punk rock world, you see the world differently, and then
Sure.
you're, I don't know, probably more insightful
Hmm. I
throughout
like to
life.
think so.
Right.
See, and I feel like I already saw the world differently, but I didn't have anything to attach myself to. And when I discovered punk rock and skateboarding, like that felt like home. Like, these people understand what I'm seeing here. But yeah, it's all the same.
Yeah. I, yeah, I think that was me too. It's just like, I don't really remember my first show, but I usually say it was the Crucified when they played a reunion show.
Hmm.
I got to go, and I say it's my first concert because it was the first time I went on a mosh pit.
Mm.
My older brother just like shoved me in during their song about the mosh pit, the pit,
Uh-huh.
and I spent the rest of the night there, and
Nice.
it was just like I can pinpoint that concert as a life-changing event for me because it was
Totally.
like I love everything about this, you know.
Right.
And I don't mosh because I'm too old, but it's
Hmm.
just
That hurts now.
it hurts. Um, but like that energy and that like feeling hasn't diminished in me at all.
Right. Right.
And I
Yeah.
don't I almost feel sorry for the teenagers who grew up or are growing up without like that connection to something,
Yeah. Agreed. I agree. Connected to their screens,
right?
their devices. Yeah. It is sad.
Yeah. I mean,
Not that
even
there's
my
anything wrong with it, but just they don't have, something to be passionate. I don't know. Just doesn't seem like I won't say they're not passionate about it, but it doesn't make sense to my brain to be passionate about something like that.
right,
So I don't know. Maybe that's the old guy in me saying that,
right. I'm like my camera back then didn't even have a screen.
but
Uh,
right.
I couldn't see what I was shooting. Question 9. How can you encourage others to live a life of creation and see the value in the act of creation? I think we kind of talked about it.
Yeah.
I think I need to change this question because I always say that question and then say, I think we just talked about that.
Yeah. All right, skip to the next one. Say number 9. We'll just pretend that one didn't happen.
You're like, number 9, I mean 10. Say, number 9, see previous answer to question 8. Question 10. How would you like to see yourself grow as a creator?
Like to get good at playing guitar.
I mean, you're pretty good,
No,
but
no.
I mean,
Right, right.
are you
No.
wanting to be like a shredder or just
You know what I want to learn how to do is finger pick on acoustic guitar. I
okay,
can't do that. I just strum.
right?
And I listen to finger pickers and I'm so envious, so jealous.
I
But no, I mean, seriously, to answer your question though, like the studio stuff, like every time I mix a record or every time I record a band, like I learn new stuff every time. And like I feel like that just I get a little bit better and a little bit better every time. So I just want to be really good at that. Really good.
right.
Yeah.
Would you ever see yourself like, because I think your studio's in your garage, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever see yourself trying to like open up like a building that's a
I'd love
studio?
to.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably think about that every day. But what makes it so, well, I think for me, what makes me so nervous about even trying to do that is kind of like we talked about all the technology that's out there today is you can have a recording studio in your bedroom with a
right,
computer and a microphone. Like you can do so much now that you couldn't do 20 years ago. So, and these young people are coming up and learning how to use that stuff. Like they're not going to spend thousands of dollars going to a recording studio anymore.
right,
So they can do it themselves.
right,
So I'm probably stuck in my garage,
right.
and
I
that's
mean,
okay.
yeah, I mean, the commute's nice.
Yeah.
And I mean, just the amount of plugins and, you
Mhm.
know, modulators and just like amp models or whatever. It's like
Yep.
you don't even need an amp anymore, really.
No, you do not. You don't even need a drum set.
You
You don't
still
even
kind
need to know how to sing because it'll tune it for you.
it doesn't work for me.
No?
I'm so bad it starts sounding it's going to sound like T-Pain or something. Yeah, my neighbor was, working on something. He's like, "Yeah, it's not that bad. There's some parts where, you can start hearing auto tune. We might need to go back and do some. We might need to try that again." I have accepted that I'm not a vocalist, at least like a singing vocalist. I don't mind my hardcore vocals too much, but
Right, right. As
it's just not everyone is meant to be a vocalist.
long as you're having fun, man. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
I enjoy it, and because I've met you, you've sang on my records or songs, and you know
Oh,
uh,
that's right. Yeah.
Jordan and Kayla from Pretty Bad.
Pretty bad. Yeah.
They sang on something for me. I'm like, I don't need to sing. I just send
Yeah,
it
it's
to
cool.
people
I
who
like
can
it.
do it.
You're a songwriter.
Right. And I think that's what I kind of leaned into is just I love the writing aspect of it.
Nice.
I think I need to be able to do vocals enough to be able to present my idea to someone.
Sure. Totally.
And I think I might be okay in that area.
Sure.
But then I
You always
usually,
got the point across for me. So
right.
yeah.
And I say, but please add dynamics, embellishments, and, you know,
Right.
you can hold a note longer than a second.
Uh-huh.
I'm out of breath after a second, so I can't do it. Can you hold out for the whole measure? So would you consider yourself wanting to or see yourself doing more studio stuff then?
I'd like to. Like I'm kind of trying to I'm at the stage where it's like I want to push a little bit and see could I take this farther?
Right,
Like to the point I just want to exhaust myself, go to my job, work in the studio, go to my job, work in the studio, just to see is that even a feasible thing? Because at my age, it's like it's now or never.
right.
I either need to stop thinking about it or try it. So I'd love to do it. I'm gonna give it a shot.
Do you see yourself developing simple records more too?
Um, this point, no. Like I just want to keep that just local. I didn't go into it expecting to make money. Definitely don't. And I think in labels are kind of in the same boat as recording studios. Like
Right,
with the music industry these days, and everything just gets put up on Spotify, and no one makes money anyway. So I don't know. I look at my label as something different than the old standard record label thing.
right,
Just a community for me. Whoever wants
right,
to be a part of the community can join the family.
right.
Yeah,
And maybe that's the future of labels. It's just kind of
maybe.
more like a artist community than
Yeah,
these big corporate, you know,
right.
entities that just own everything and the artist
Yep,
doesn't own a thing.
right. No creative input whatsoever. Just a pretty face and a good voice.
I missed out on that one.
Yeah.
I got the hardcore face.
I- Yes, you do. You were born in the right era.
Born in the right era, yes. Yeah, I was going to see if you were thinking of, expanding past Boise for the label, but I think what you do there is kind of cool. Like it's just a local scene community that's helping each other. It's pretty awesome. There was a punk label that I was, of the scene I was going to called Flat Black. And I think they kind of expanded to other, areas, but they were local to Orange County and, were very supportive to all the like punk bands and, it seemed like everyone eventually put out some kind of record on Flat Black
Hmm.
and I tried to buy everyone that I could just to support them. Um,
Right.
but I think because you had a label like that, it was like almost like the heart of the scene.
Hmm.
I think Face Down Records was kind of that way for the Christian hardcore metal scene.
Sure.
Um, so I think it's really important to have those smaller labels that are really kind of bringing life and support into the smaller scenes.
Hmm.
Oh,
Agreed.
and gives them kind of a purpose, because you could have a band that's not on your label who's just starting, but opening for, Simple Records bands,
Hmm.
and they go, "Oh man, I love these guys. They're all on Simple Records."
Right.
And then you're going to have these kids who, aspire to be on your label
Sure.
or at
Sure.
least record in your garage.
Right. Yep.
And that's I think that's even cool because it's like, some of my fondest memories were going to some random dude's house and,
Hmm.
sleeping on the floor and recording in their in the garage.
Right.
Like
Punk rock.
there's just something fun about it. It's cool.
Yeah.
And it's cool that you still do it.